Can I help you?
I'd like 2 tickets for Camel City Chat. Hey everybody, welcome to Camel City Chat. I'm John McPherson and I'm here in Union Station in Winston-Salem, right on the edge of the Winston-Salem State University campus. That's right, go Rams. But I can say friend, right?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. Michelle McCullough, and Michelle's position is historical queen or something? What is your position exactly?
I am one of the historic resource officers for the city and the county.
Okay. How many are there?
2 of us. Heather
Okay.
Bratland is the other one.
Well, I should have gotten Heather instead, don't you think?
Yeah, you can get her next time.
Okay, all right. So Michelle and I have known each other for several years. We were on the board of the museum together. And then I came to your 29th birthday party a couple of years ago. That's
Yes.
3 years ago, right?
Yes, 3 years ago.
Yeah,
I turned
and
29 again.
29 again, yeah. And so we're gonna have some fun because this is just such a cool place. You gave us a tour of it, but there's so many neat things that we can talk about and historical references, resources, and preservation besides you, which is why we're here to talk about you.
Right.
So where are you from and how long have you been here?
So originally, I'm from a town called Beaver Falls in Pennsylvania.
Right.
It's outside of Pittsburgh. Had several lives, in my 29 years. So I went to school. Let's jump to my graduate degree was in historic preservation, and I went to Ball State University.
Ball State University, go Cardinals, right?
Yep, in Muncie, Indiana. Worked there for about 5 to 7 years climbing buildings with an engineering firm. And then I found out about a job in this little town called Winston-Salem, and I've been here for 19 years and 7 months.
All right, so a couple famous people have been to Ball State.
Ball State and Beaver Falls.
Right, David Letterman.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And of course, our friend Rick Babuziak, State Farm Insurance, was a graduate of Ball State. Yeah,
Didn't
I
know
know.
that.
And he went there for did he go undergraduate there and then Florida State? But yeah, I mean, so great school. What attracted you from Pennsylvania to go to Ball State?
I kind of did it via Washington, D.C., Allentown, back to Beaver Falls, over there. So
Okay.
my first career was in Washington, more in government and nonprofits.
Okay.
I worked for muscular dystrophy. It was a fundraiser for a while.
Okay.
But always loved history and always loved buildings, but didn't know how I could bring those two together into a career. Got a little burned out, and so I started looking, and that's when I found Ball State's program. It's in the architecture and planning and landscape kind of school, but it's a master's in historic preservation. So it's a good generalist program for 2 years.
So you can, you know how to restore, was it jalousie windows, jalousie windows?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yes.
Yes,
There you
okay.
go. Okay.
I taught a class with the realtors on the different windows, if you can believe it. It was continuing education.
You know just enough information to be
To
dangerous.
be
don't you,
dangerous,
John?
yeah. All I know is that there's the same windows from the really bad scene in the Scarface in the shower as the
There you
jalousies,
go.
right?
That's it.
So you're in Winston-Salem. Now, what year did you come to Winston?
2003.
So 2003. Gosh, you were very young at the time then, to be
I was
29.
very young.
Yeah, so you come in 2003, and you were hired as an officer at that point, or what were you
Yes,
hired in
yes.
as? So you've been doing this job for almost
20 years.
20 years, right?
Yep.
And where do you like to? So you work downtown. You work in the what's it called?
The Bryce A. Stewart Municipal Building, and I work in the planning department.
Right.
So
Yeah, but it's like City Hall 2 or something like that. What
City
is it?
Hall South.
Okay,
yeah.
City Hall South. Okay, so you work there. That's where you go pay your water bill
Yes.
and get a permit or things like that. And it's, I always, when I'm like a zoning question or something, it's like, hey, is Michelle here? Could you tell her? I said, hey. And so downtown obviously is where you're going to go for lunch or something like that. But what is your favorite place to eat? You can say many places. It's just, you're not going to offend anybody. We're
I
just
know.
talking. What's off the top of your head?
I'm not picking one place over another, but I do love a good piece of tomato pie at Mozelle's.
All right, Mozelle's great tomato pie.
Yeah. So like if I'm looking for tomato pie or even some shrimp and grits, that's probably where I'm going to go.
I went to 600 finally.
Oh, how was that?
It was good. I met
I've been
Travis.
there
I think
for
he's going to be on the show. Yeah.
Okay.
I got the tuna tartare for lunch. Tuna, seared ahi tuna. It was good.
Yeah.
I recommend the cucumbers, the spicy cucumbers.
Okay.
They're the bomb. But it was nice. Catherine and I walked around Bailey Park. It was one of those days where we dropped Laura off of school, and then she and I just kind of hung out for a little while together, which was really nice to be able to do. And then, But just so many great restaurants downtown. So you mentioned Moselle's. What others?
What other places do I like to go? You know, my new find was, and I'm going to probably get the name wrong. It's the Latin place down on Trade Street.
Not mojitos.
Yes, mojitos.
Okay, yeah, okay, yeah.
Latin Cuban.
Yep, right.
Oh,
So
gotta like that.
So Kathy Robertson will air tomorrow, but last week's episode was the guys over at Broad Branch, and so we talked about there. That's a good place.
Yeah. I'm a whiskey drinker too. So.
Right. Yep. So that's good to know.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll see each other. I know I've had a drink with you before. And so, what do you like to do around town? I mean, obviously, touring historic buildings is not what you do every single day. But you know, what do you like to do when you're not working?
I'm one of those sad people who like their passion, their job is what I like to do. My poor family gets taken.
Yeah. No wonder
every
your son. Yeah. Right. So.
We recently just went to Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, and again, we traveled in all the little neighborhoods to see. I recently, in the last couple of years, gotten into running and things like that. So that's kind of a new, and not in any way, shape, or form.
You're about to turn 30,
yeah,
so I mean,
exactly.
you gotta.
I better keep in shape, and so keeping in shape, I've got a little trainer friend that helps me do that. But it's my mother lives with me, so I take care of my family. My son has moved home; he graduated, so. I go downtown a lot. You know, I used to. COVID's kind of changed things, so it's kind of hard right now because I haven't gotten back into the swing of actually doing things. I used to be a big whatever's going on. But
when you had your birthday, you were at what's the name of the place? It's not Ziggy's. Ramcat.
Yeah.
And so that was right before COVID.
Right. And so we recently, I think Sunday was the streetcar festival.
Right.
Or no,
food truck festival.
Food truck festival. That's right. Down by Wise Men and all that. So that was fun, and it felt like getting back to normal. But
the biggest thing for us for COVID was Laura had not seen a movie in the theater.
Oh.
And so in the last 2 months, we took her to go see a movie, and that was one of those check marks that made me feel like we've come back some more.
I haven't seen a movie.
It's well, you just make a reservation. It's so weird. You make a reservation. COVID has changed everything, and I'm sure it's probably even changed your job some. You're not flying in to speak somewhere. You're just doing a Zoom or something like that now.
Right. A lot of Zoom. Yeah. And even at the office with the city and the county, a lot of our offices, we're still not open. You've got to make appointments to come down to see us. So you can't just drop by on the counter anymore because there is no counter right now still. We're hoping to get those things up. We've now got a new counter. Our office moved to the 3rd floor. So if you're looking for planning and permitting, we're there now.
Right.
But yeah, all those kind of things changed.
And you all moved up to the 3rd floor because there was a vacancy, and that vacancy is now below us in this building?
Exactly. So transportation moved here to be in this building, and so then utilities moved on our floor, and we moved up because planning and permitting merged several years back, but now we're all on one floor, all one department. So makes sense.
I'll tell you, I'm getting ready to go to D.C., all right? And so, I worked in D.C. for a little while, and we're going to go up, see, our representatives, senators, whatever, and then do some tours and stuff. Unfortunately, it looks like the White House will be closed when we're up there, but because I still haven't done that yet. But so different things that and we can talk, off the camera about what do you recommend here or there. But it made me think of a question to you, and that is, I'm coming to Winston-Salem for the historical side of things. What are the 5 things that you recommend that as a visitor or as a citizen, I show to friends visiting me?
Well, and I think COVID, also we vacation where we are now.
Yeah.
We're staycationers.
Staycation, right. Yep.
So, you staycation and you go actually explore your own town.
Right.
How many people have been to this building? When we opened it up, we had 850 people who had been clamoring to get back in here. Either they'd had a car from Davis Garage being worked on here, but they had never seen this. 5 favorites. Number 1, it has to be, is to go to the Reynolds building.
Right.
It has now been rehabbed, and there's a hotel in there. I won't pop that, but there's a restaurant in there. But it has the #1 lobby in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah,
so
the Kempton Cardinal is just phenomenal. I was blessed in that we had a realtor event on the top floor.
Yeah.
So that was just about a month or 2 ago.
And
That's one of my check marks.
And half of it is still apartments or condoing out.
Right.
So, but you have half of it being a hotel and then living. So, but you have to go into the lobby. You have to experience that.
And have a drink at the Catherine.
Yeah, exactly. And the building was built in 1926, 1927. Shreves and Lamb, who did do the Empire State Building, it was built before them. The outside, take a look at the whole building. I mean, when you walk in the front door and you go over that opening, that gold brass look, those are stylized tobacco leaves. I mean, every part of it was to represent, R.J. Reynolds and tobacco. So that's a character-defining feature, of our community. So, second, where would I go? Now, you have to go see Innovation Quarter, which is the continuation of the tobacco industry. So the old warehouses that Wake has turned into state-of-the-art labs, but there's restaurants, 600. Crankies, there's coffee, there's so much to do down there.
You're going to love this one now. So,
Excuse me.
Brent Campbell was last week's interview. He'll air the week before your aired, and he said to me, he goes, John, he said, they sent me as Winston-Salem bureau chief, and I stood there, and there wasn't a thing around me, and they're telling me to report on how this is going to become Innovation Quarter. He said, I thought they were the craziest people in the world, and he says, now I'm out there having a good time at night with my friends. In an area that I didn't believe could be there.
Right.
And I said, you ought to do a side-by-side of saying, hey, this is Brent Campbell report, and do it on so people can see how different it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can go Saturdays, you see yoga going on. I mean, there are food trucks, there is just so much, and it's got a lot of our history, not just the tobacco. You have the textile history. There are 3 Haynes buildings left that have all been changed into residential. You've got the Nissen Wagon Works, which if you don't know is the S.J. Nissen building, the one that looks like the castle, like Crankies.
Yep.
I mean, that used to be a showroom. For the wagon would sit in that front window just like a new car.
And if you want to see the wagon, you come see it out in Louisville.
Exactly.
Right. Sorry, had to plug that one for him.
And then they used to repair the wagons in the back.
Right.
So you have to go down to, Innovation Quarter. I've got to give a shout out to Kernersville. You got to go to see the Folly.
I know the other 2 that you're going to say after this, by the way.
You do?
Yeah. Reynolds House and Old Salem.
Oh, I got to say Old Salem.
Yeah,
you got to kind of say those 2 too.
Right, yeah.
I was trying to think off the beaten path.
So we know, okay, so then those 2 don't count. So we're going to say Old Salem and Reynolds House, and that's one of my check.
Grayland.
And Grayland. One of my check marks is swim in the pool, and that's happened before with people allowed to do that. So I got to talk.
He's not allowed to tell the story though.
No, I got to talk. No. I got to talk to Stephen about that and get in that. So that might be we'll do Camel City Chat there, and they'll let me jump in the pool. So that's one. So then you've got. So those 3 don't count because that's just automatics.
That's automatic.
All right,
It's
so
automatic.
then you said Kernersville and Kerner's Folly. I just sold a house in Kernersville, and the people said we're going to go to Kerner's Folly. That is the strangest place in the entire world.
And
not at the what is it? The Winchester House is probably stranger in California.
Yeah. But Dale Pennington out there, Dale, she's the executive director there. She has been working for several years to kind of bring that place back, room by room, in a very unique way, interpreting each room not as a holistic place, not like we brought this place back to 1927, 1926. Right. She's bringing it room by room. It's very interesting. So if you haven't been out there in a while, go out there because they just finished doing the kitchen in the back, so it looks beautiful.
And we're close enough now. You want to go during the Christmas time because my understanding is they actually do an artist in each room too. So not only do you get to see the room, then you get to see an artist.
That would be awesome.
All right, so you got I think 1 more left, but we're going to do something.
Okay.
I'm going to let you think over it. We're going to take a break. We're going to be right back with Michelle McCullough from the Historic Resource Commission. She knows about history. We'll be right back with more Camel City Chat. Welcome back to Camel City Chat. I'm John McPherson. I'm here with Michelle McCullough from the city of Winston-Salem. She is their Historic Resource Officer for almost 20 years. Got all of that right. Did you notice that?
You got all of that. I'm very impressed.
All right, so here we go. So our question was name 5 places, and I kind of said off the beaten path people wouldn't think about I think, but we know the big ones are Old Salem, and we also know like Sika and the Reynolds House and Grayland. All right, so we've got on our 5 is the Reynolds Tower. Have a drink at the Catherine. Maybe go down the slide. You said, what else? We said, what were the other?
IQ. So
Innovation Quarter, right.
Kerner's Folly.
And then we got...
and we clumped all of the big ones together for the 4.
Right, so
we've got 1 more.
1 more. I know one.
So I think
they've been a guest on Camel City Chat, too, if it's what I think it is.
They've been a guest?
Yeah. You tell me who it is, and I'll tell you if they have.
I would say if anybody likes roadside architecture or, the biggest ball of twine or the biggest skillet, we actually have the last remaining Shell station that looks like a shell. And it's down in our Walltown area in Peachtree Street, or Peachtree Road, I might be getting that wrong, but But it is definitely, you have to see it. And if you've lived here for more than a year or two and you haven't been down there yet, you better get down there because it is something to take a picture, and send. It's a great Christmas card picture place. So.
We had the quality oil folks.
Oh, you had the quality oil. Oh, okay, yeah.
They actually designed that. So we've got, you need to go back.
The patterns?
Yeah, you need to go back and
cool.
watch it. I mean, we actually have the pictures of, like you showed us in the hallways of the flooring. They've got the floor plans and everything.
Yeah, so cool.
And what's cool about it is it's taken care of.
Yeah.
It's in a beautiful setting, and they've done such a nice job with it.
And I mean, they have all of the original, the pumps that are out there used to be the glass.
Right.
So they have some glass ones. They had some issue with some getting broken. I mean, even in storms and things.
Well, no, I mean, if it gets, if it gets any water on it and freezes, pop.
Yeah. So, but it's an amazing little gem, and I think that's the kind of, I think we all live here and take it for granted, but Winston-Salem and Forsyth County, we have a lot of stuff. Every little community. I don't want to leave out Walkertown or Rural Hall or Bethania, Clemens, even Clemens has a few gems left. You got to look for them, but and Louisville. I mean, so we have so much here.
And so you do the whole county of Forsyth.
Yep.
And let's do this. Let's go back almost 20 years. You get hired on. What's your first project that you worked on?
So I staff the Historic Resource Commission. One of their big bread and butter type jobs is they do what's called certificates of appropriateness for locally designated areas. So we have 3 locally designated districts. And we have here true historic districts, which you go to other places and they said, oh, we've got local districts. No. We've got historic districts. That's Old Salem and Bethabara. Everything's regulated, the zoning, everything. But we have
Then we have the others.
Then we have the others, which we call overlay, historic overlay.
Historic overlay, and the big one would be
West End.
West End.
Right.
And so that's where I call you up as a realtor, and I say, hey, my person's thinking about doing this or that.
Yeah.
And there's benefits, and to some homeowners it could be a liability. To others it is an advantageous. But they know about it going into it, so it's not something they don't. But we have historic tax credits falls in
Correct.
your realm of helping out?
We advise, that's state and federal, but we can tell them where to go, how to get into that process, and that sort of thing.
You're a leader. I mean, you point them, right?
Yes.
And then we also have you can't paint your house this color.
That's us.
You have to use this type of a roof or windows or things like that. And now, but each area has something. Now, supposedly I see a sign that Ardmore is a historic area too.
So let's go back and answer your first question.
All right,
You're jumping around now.
Well, you've known me long enough to know.
So one of my first projects is to do for those locally designated districts. He's right. Those are the districts you have to ask permission before you do anything. Change your windows. We don't do paint color in West End, which is good.
And you can tell they don't do paint color in West End because if someone gets angry, they paint their color house purple.
But roofs and things like that. So there's a set of standards for each of those neighborhoods. So one of my first big projects was updating the standards they already had. And so we had to do meetings with the neighbors because we wanted input. The city and the county doesn't put those districts on people. They come to us and say, we want to be an overlay district.
Yep.
So we want to work with the neighbors and find out what they want. We've actually done that process since I've been here twice now. But those are our only 3 districts. We have another program called a local historic landmark, and we have about 145 of those throughout the county, and that's individual buildings.
Zinzendorf Motel.
Well, it's gone.
Right, that's
a marker.
Okay,
These are landmarks. So this would be like City Hall. The Reynolds building is one. Right in that quarter, the courthouse, the Pepper building, the O'Hanlon building. These are all landmark properties. These are the ones, they still have to follow rules. They have a set of standards, but they get a perk. They get a 50% tax deferral in perpetuity with the property. 50% on what's designated. So interior, exterior, and site can be designated. And they get that in perpetuity. Now, what they're supposed to utilize those funds for is to maintain it. They have to keep the slate roof.
All right, so like Pepper building, that one of the things probably was they had to keep that mural there or something like that.
Right, and they had to keep the material on the outside.
Right.
And inside, if you go into Sir Winston, that restaurant, very good restaurant too, they had what's called Zenotherm over their columns. It was a mid-century kind of modern product. They don't make it anymore. But they had to keep it. They had to rehab it and restore it. And
that's a beautiful indigo too. I mean, it's a great hotel.
So you hear about that and people go, oh my gosh, why are we giving those tax deferrals for these people? However, they have to keep those properties in the historic vein. They can't just come in and make changes either.
All right,
so that's different than the districts because the districts don't get that.
All right, so you helped in a sense. All right, so the first thing, the highest ranking that you have is what? A district?
I would say the landmarking. And
Okay.
this is local, because then we're going to talk about what you just said about Ardmore, because that's different.
All right, so a local landmark, is the Reynolds building a local landmark? But it's also historic.
It's also on the National Register of Historic Places.
So you can be both?
Yep.
This is both?
Yep.
Okay, so this is a national...
This is a landmark too, yes.
See, I paid attention earlier
sorry,
when you
yep.
were talking. So this is on the National Historic Register of Places, and Davis Garage did that when they owned it.
Yes, he did both
All right,
of those.
and then, okay, so that, and then now, so then this building has a perpetuity of 50%.
Right, but the
Okay.
city owns it, so we don't.
So,
get-
right,
we
yeah,
don't
no,
get
you-
that.
yeah.
So
It's-
they just have to follow the rules.
Right, they have to follow the
And even
rules.
the city has to follow the rules.
Absolutely, yeah, because
So-
precedence is a horrible thing to set. And so then we've got historic districts, which we have 3 of those: Old Salem, Bethabara, and
West End.
West End.
And those are locally designated districts.
Okay, right. Nationally would be Bethabara and Old Salem.
So then, if we do the National Register,
You're drawing this. This is a slide rule in Abacus. Okay.
so National Register is what we call the nation's honor roll of historic properties.
Right.
You can be listed individually or in a district. Why you would do a district is because as you're going to tell the story of a whole area, and not every property in a whole area is going to have significance enough to be listed on its own. So here in Winston, we have 19 National Register districts in Forsyth County, because there's 2 in Kernersville. 19. So Ardmore is a district, but it's not locally, so they don't have to come get permission.
Right. Okay.
Washington Park, Reynolds Town on the east side,
West Salem, I bet, is one.
West Salem,
Okay.
Holly Avenue, which is a little pocket residential neighborhood. Winston-Salem Tobacco District, which is, when we just talked about IQ, that's all a historic district. So those buildings could utilize the tax credit program at the state and federal level. That was part of the reason why they could keep some of those buildings and make them state of the art.
Right, because they were warehouses, so there weren't as many guidelines on a warehouse as there would be on, say, the Nissan Wagon Works
So
building.
you could adaptively reuse it.
Right,
Right.
okay.
So we have all these districts, you know, in the county. So
So
and they can
you don't have
utilize
much
this.
to do at work then?
We don't, but we don't have, luckily, we don't have to do permissions for them to do stuff
Okay.
too. But we are a resource for them. So what does that mean? You know, what can we do? Who do we call? So we can help you with those questions, you know, and get you to the right person, especially if the State Historic Preservation Office is in Raleigh, but we can tell you who you need to call because you are calling a now state government office.
So like Augsburg Lutheran is in the heart of the West End district. And so I know that when they've looked at doing windows and things like that,
But
it's
that's
not,
locally
you can't, right, but you
designated.
can't,
No.
can't go out and say, hey, let's do this, let's do this. I
No.
mean, it has to be. And so then I would assume, for instance, when I had the home sell in the West End, you recommended call this lady or call this person or whatever to get some help with a roofing issue.
Right.
Right, so you have the resources for me of, one, what I can and can't do,
Right.
and then the resources of me of these are vendors that have, that I know people have worked with. You're on your own calling them, but here's some names just to be safe.
We try. We have to
Right.
give you a list of them.
Right,
Because we
yeah.
can't, as a city, we don't want to recommend just one person over
Right.
another. And, you know, in those cases, I always highly suggest watch your neighborhood. If somebody's doing a project, ask them who they're using.
Right.
We have found over time, people, when they find somebody good, they don't
cream
tell us.
rises to the
Well, they
top,
don't
yeah,
tell us. They
right.
don't want them to be that busy when they need to call them back. So
Right.
it's kind of funny. But
I mean, it is interesting because the house that I was showing had, I guess it was a tin roof on it, wasn't it? And so, but then they could put it back, but it was a tin roof, but it had been painted, and so you paint a special
Yeah.
material on it, and it's
a tin roof can last a long time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So now we've talked about the National Register. Now there is another level that's, because you asked what's the highest. Old Salem and Bethabara
sorry.
are actual national landmarks.
Right.
And national landmarks can be properties or districts. Okay?
Okay.
And these are ones that are nationally
How many
significant.
landmarks do we have here?
So we have Old Salem
Right.
and Bethabara, Bethania, and then in Old Salem, and I'm gonna not get them all right, but there's several like the Tavern,
Right.
and I think the Boys School. Those are actually individually landmarked too.
Okay.
Nationally.
Right.
So there is another higher level, and again, we have them all here. We have all of that. So,
Okay.
which is unique because you go to some small towns, you know. You go to Mebane, you're not going to find every level of preservation there. You are going to find some good stuff.
So now is the Reynolds Tower a landmark?
The
Or just-
Reynolds Tower,
Yeah.
like the Reynolds headquarters
Yeah.
that we just talked about.
Yeah.
That's a local, it's not national.
Okay, it's not national, okay.
Only the stuff related to the Moravians.
Okay,
Here
all right.
has been,
Okay.
put on that.
Now, what
like
about-
the Shell station is on the National Register, but it's also in a district. That's the Waughtown Bellevue district.
Okay. Now, since we're here and, I got my MBA there, what about Winston-Salem State? Do we have any buildings on their campus? I mean, I would think the house is the passport office, right?
Simon Green Atkins' house.
Yes,
so
right.
Simon Green Atkins was the big educator who started Winston-Salem State, Slater Academy.
Yep.
He also developed, there was a neighborhood here on this side that was called Columbia Heights.
Right.
And it was for middle class to upper class African Americans. And
Right.
he was doing that when the real push for more housing, he was developing residential neighborhoods
Right.
for African Americans. He started his career here at Depot Street Elementary School, which is down in Innovation Quarter. There's
Right.
a marker, and we can talk about the marker program too.
Right.
He started there as the first principal, and he saw the first graduating class, and then he moved on. And he rose up and really created a lot of great programming and educational opportunities for African Americans here in
Right.
Winston. So he claims, but his house is listed on the National Register.
Right.
Now, up and coming,
Now, wait now. That's the passport office, right?
I think it is.
Okay.
yes, if
And
it's
that's
still there.
moving.
It could possibly be moving
Okay, right,
to a location we're very close to right now.
Right there? Okay, go ahead.
So possibly Winston-Salem State is working on a deal
Right.
with the city to be in the second floor here, to have maybe the passport office, maybe some, students could come here when they first are looking at the college and they can show them around.
Right,
and-
because parking stinks on Winston-Salem State campus.
Well,
I mean,
on all
and it's all
campuses, so we
campuses,
won't-
right? Well, I mean,
But there's a nice parking lot that's very
Right.
easy and it's very walkable.
so I could come here, you walk right across, and we're,
And then you could come back here, schedule your classes, pay the bursar,
Okay.
and go to your dorm and be
Right.
done.
And you said purser because we're in a train station. That's hilarious.
Is it a okay, sorry. Sorry.
It's fine. So we got like a minute or two, so let's start on historic markers and we'll take them to the break. So
Okay.
what's a marker?
So another program that the Historic Resource Commission does is they have the Historic Marker Committee. And this is one my colleague, Heather Bratland, right now is leading in our office. So if you're interested, applications are due October 31st of every year for markers. The city has appropriated 2 markers per year and the county has appropriated 1. These are markers that were created. Joycelyn Johnson used to be a past council person who recently just passed away, and one of her passions was recognizing and acknowledging lost or gone history, especially in the African American community. She actually helped to start that program, so I really do want to give her a shout out. So what it enables us to do, Depot Street School, the building's gone. So how do we let people know that there was something very important here? So these are those big markers you see on the highway and the streets as you go by. Ours are blue in the city and like a black in the county, gold lettering, and they will talk about usually an underrepresented history, something that's gone. It could be something that happened there.
Right.
Could be about a person and this location was tied to this person somehow. Either that's where they lived, like the first person who lived in the city of Winston-Salem. We have a marker at his house.
Right,
He's the
so you
mayor.
got the house there right near the courthouse. There's yeah, but that one's kind of a obelisk. I mean, it comes up off the ground.
Right. Well, so those aren't all ours. They're different ones.
Right,
so,
okay.
So we have historic markers all
You're
over.
killing me with this stuff, because then I was going to ask you, what are the brown ones that are out in the county that show like where the Shallow Ford was?
Okay, so other communities have done them. So like
Okay.
Louisville's done a
Okay.
great program of markers, and they've done that all on their own.
Okay.
So Clemens has done 1 or 2, and they've actually asked for the Historic Resource Commission help just because we kind of have a built-in way to do it. But they've
Why reinvent the wheel?
They did the Peter Clemens house,
Right.
and then the stagecoach. They have one right at Town Hall about the stagecoach. But Louisville has a great program of them. Bethania has a great program of them. If you drive through there, you'll see several. Those aren't ours, but it's the same vein, the same type, and that sort of thing.
All right, well, hold that. Let's talk some more about it. We're going to take a quick break because Stabler's over there tapping his foot.
Oh, okay.
We'll be right back with more Camel City Chat. Welcome back to Camel City Chat. I'm here with Michelle McCullough, and we're talking history. And I think we should have told everybody to grab a cup of coffee before this started, because you're just rattling this stuff off. It is such a passion for you. That's why we've been friends for years. I mean, you just love talking about history, and you know, I want to talk about this building some more, but you know, is there a place that I can get all of this information so that I can, I mean, is there a historic markers list? Is there a, yeah.
So the Historic Resource Commission isn't part of the planning department
Right.
in the city. We're city-county planning. So, but if you go on our website, we have a whole list of all the markers and all the landmarks and a little bit of information about those local districts we talked about. But there's a nice little chart, and then you can look, and there's a one-page informational sheet for every one of them. So like, I want to know a little bit more about what she was talking about.
The Shell Station.
Yeah, the Shell Station.
Right.
I want to know a little bit more about Oddfellows Cemetery. I saw a marker out there.
Right.
What I couldn't stop to read it. Well, each one of these has the marker, and then a whole page, and sometimes back and front,
right.
About these. And then even those landmark properties. So you can kind of see what's going on, and it gives you a good history. Doesn't sell the whole thing, but
right.
you know. And we're working on other things to add to that website. So it's a good website to check back to every now and then.
Have you done any of the tours or stuff like that? Have you been consulted on those, or any stuff like, I know there's a Segway tour and they do some history stuff?
Some of those, the city, we try to do some,
right.
we get some special requests, and we try to actually educate even within the city. So we have a customer service week,
right.
and we always do walking tours for our own,
right.
so we kind of educate our own. May is Historic Preservation Month nationally.
Right.
So pre-COVID, and again, hopefully we can get these started again, especially walks, we would try to do landmark open houses.
Right.
We've done a couple where we've got a few like right within each other, the same area.
Right.
So we could do 3, so people love to go into these, buildings. Everybody's a voyeur of older buildings,
right.
if you get an opportunity. We did one in Washington Park. We had 2 of the big houses on Cascade open.
Oh,
the
wow.
owners, people like that. So we would do that and do some walks. I like to do neighborhood walks. We've done them, in Ardmore. We've done them in Washington Park. We've done them over on 14th Street. So
right.
you learn different history about, the city.
Yeah. So
and downtown. I've got a downtown. I've got 6 walking tours for downtown. Like
and I can get that information from you, or do you have it like already written out or stuff?
No, I'm working on it.
Okay. So now, so it sounds like a book. Hey, historic walks of Winston-Salem.
It could be.
Why don't you do that? I'm here for you. Just let me know. You can put my name.
Did you hear him say he will fund that book? I heard him say that.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll talk. But no, so.
But books, we can talk about books too later. Don't
I know.
that.
Heather's book's the bomb, and we can talk
about. That was
about.
through the Historic Research.
I know that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that's you just that was so awesome. But I want to ask on the walks thing. So, for instance, have you been in Ludlow and stuff since Lou's been working on it?
I unfortunately missed. There was an opportunity last week for some of us because that's in West End.
Just call Lou up.
I know, and I am looking forward to it. So
you want me to tell Lou you want to talk to him? I mean, he's listening to this. He always listens.
Hi, Lou.
Yeah.
The other, so they're doing a terrific job out there, and I'm very excited. And the Ludlow House it really is statewide significant for us because Ludlow was an engineer. Mm-hmm. He designed neighborhoods and roadways and everything for a lot of places in the state of North Carolina.
When was the last time you were in the one that's down the street here, Schaffner House?
Probably right before he bought it.
All right, so I'm calling Lou when we leave here, and I'll have him get in touch with you.
That's a great place too.
Yeah, I've been in there for a couple. He's done real good in there, and so then
I hear there's a ghost or two if you pay attention.
I'm not at liberty to say.
Okay.
So that's that. But they're doing great work with that. And then I was going to ask you something else, but let's go into what you were just getting ready to talk about, and that was books. So how do I learn more about all this stuff?
So again, our website tells a lot about it. The State Historic Preservation website.
Right.
Another place locally, if you're interested in history and you want to get into it and you want to learn more, we're very fortunate that our downtown library has the North Carolina room. Mm-hmm. Karen Feeney down there is awesome.
Now, is Karen who has replaced he who cannot be mentioned anymore?
No, Karen was there.
Karen was there the whole time?
Karen was there the whole time.
So how does FAM know all this stuff?
FAM is probably one of our best storytellers, and I think he just reads a lot and he lived here. He lived through some of the history he talks about, and that's what I think is amazing when he starts telling a story, and you're like, you were there, So there are good stories to still be told by people who are alive. You don't. But they have a lot of collections, and they have all the ancestry stuff and the genealogy stuff and maps and things like that. And we donate a lot of stuff. If we start going through stuff and find stuff, we typically give it to them so the public can find it. You know? And if you're doing research on urban renewal, that's a great place to go and start. Help us learn more and that sort of thing. So
well then, so libraries equal books, and of course I'm looking over here at the Traveler's Shop and going, man, that's a KNS News at one point probably, but no, it wasn't. But I got close and I could start to feel like I was going to have to start ringing the register again with the newspapers and tobacco and stuff. So what are some of the books that I should look up?
Yeah.
I mean,
so I'm going to brag on one, and I have to. So part of our job at the Historic Resource Commission is to, because we have staff and we're considered at the state a certified local government, one of our responsibilities is to make sure we have a current survey of our location, so it would be the city and the county, and that's an architectural survey. And then usually when you do that, you do a publication. So in the late 80s, early 90s, we did Frontier to Factory, which was Gwen Taylor did that. And it was a standard survey at the time, and she had surveyed 150,000, 1,500 properties. I was number exaggerating.
Yeah,
1,500 properties. Well, it was time when I got here to redo that survey. So we started, and Heather Fernbach did it. Our first phase of that, we relooked at those original 1,500 properties. 40% were gone. Gone.
What?
Demolished. So, and when Gwen did it, she was looking for the best of the best.
Right.
And the architecture, you know, the styles, and then a sampling of the rest. And the sampling in the county was a lot of rural, but you didn't need to do every farmstead because there's so many.
Right.
There's not so many anymore. We've had great growth, which is a good thing. It's a good thing. We need homes, we need businesses, but there's a give and take in that.
Right.
So from my perspective, we had loss, you know, so we want to make sure we are out there documenting that stuff. And that's what these surveys help us to do.
Right.
So even if it has to go, we have document. I got pictures. I've got history from the family that lived there. They let us scan all their photos. And a lot of times that's what happens. Well, we went through this process again to update, and we decided about 2 years into it. It was supposed to be another county book. We decided to focus on just Winston-Salem because we were going up to 1970. Mm-hmm. After you get after World War II, building booms, our neighborhoods, right. I mean, it becomes a lot more. So we decided to do a little bit of a different book than just here's a house, it's got, you know, 6/1 double hung windows, and it's a Greek revival style.
Jalousie.
Yeah, there. You know, and that's neat and that's fun and that's great.
Right.
And there's a little bit of family history. We decided to do a book that had a little more social history and a little more talking about the development of the area. And so Heather Fernbach and I worked on a Winston-Salem architectural heritage. She did all the work. I do not take any credit for that. I administered it. We used grant funding through the state and the federal government. And so we finished that book in like 2015. We have sold out of the book.
Time for her to do another one.
We are.
Okay.
So, but
and Heather's doing it?
It is the best book. If you haven't seen it, it's called Winston-Salem Architectural Heritage. All of the libraries in the county have 2 copies.
I got one.
All of the schools have a copy. You know, we've made sure they're accessible to people, but it really does. If you've lived here, there's somewhere that you've lived, worked, prayed, played, something in there is going to reach you. And the best thing I love is when people call me and say, my aunt's name's in here, my aunt's in here. You know, we really tried to make it more a personal story about the development of our county and city.
Well, you were hawking them out of the back. I mean, you were hawking them out of the back of your trunk to get rid of them, and I think. Well,
I didn't want to get rid of them. I wanted people to have them.
No, but I mean, in the beginning, it was like, hey, you want to buy these and whatever. And so I think you got me like 6 of them, and I gave one to my dad. I kept one, and then I think I've given one to several clients and stuff like that. And of course, you helped me get one for a buddy of mine that was like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest book of all time.
Yeah.
And so when will we have either a reprint or more of them?
So what we're doing currently is we're working on, so we didn't do the county.
Right.
We didn't do Rural Hall. We didn't do Walkertown.
So you'll reprint it with the county in it?
So so we're working on a companion book.
Okay.
Because if we would have added Rural Hall in that book is how big? It is this thick,
yeah.
7.5 pounds, 700 pages, 900 photographs. I mean, there are pictures in this thing that,
it's awesome.
You know, so we're doing a county and small town book. So we are in the manuscript phase. She is writing it right now. It'll probably be another 3 years before we get it out to sell.
Right.
And at that time, we'll look at reprinting the Winston-Salem one, probably. So we've got to get the funds and that sort of thing. But it is something that once we sell it, we make those funds back. So no taxpayers' money. And
you don't make a profit on them.
Right. We made money. I say we made money, but we sold the book. We paid for it. It didn't cost the taxpayers a dime.
No. You replenished the coffers.
Yeah.
And the coffers were seeded with grant money, so it wasn't like that it was ever in taxpayers' money.
Right, and if you knew how much we spent, I mean, how much work's put into something like that, that really the consultants don't get paid.
Yeah, no,
enough.
It was awesome, and it was reasonably priced. I mean, what was it, like $40 or something?
In the beginning, it was $40, and the max price you'd have paid was $60. But if you went to any of our events, we held an event in every ward here so that we could, let everybody know about it.
At cost,
Yeah.
and that, so that was great.
Yeah. And we only sold local. Sorry, Barnes and Noble and all those places, but they were like, you have to get permission.
You don't have to apologize to them.
You have to get permission from New York.
Yeah.
And I was like, so we made a decision at the city to say, let's just support our local businesses.
Yeah, no,
Bookmarks, Old Salem's Visitor Center,
Right.
all those little places. There were several bookstores that we sold to that were just local owned. And
Anybody have any left besides
that's very
that?
important. I found out the last one I thought, no,
Right.
Bookmarks has been calling me, and
Okay.
no, we are at, I have one left. And
Yep, it's a lottery.
Yeah.
Do we have any Craftsman homes no, I'm talking about Craftsman catalog homes.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes.
So I could buy a home from Sears. It was shipped here and built.
Shipped here on the railroad, and it would come here.
Oh, I want a list of them.
Well, I don't have a list of them, but, and I'll tell you, again, I think
How do I find them?
I think we're getting skewed off. Maybe in the break, I will tell you about a very specific type of home where you can go look for some. But even in Ardmore, you go look, there are Sears homes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So,
We've never,
all right.
so we need a good college student to do a good thesis project on them, so we know where they are and get a list of them.
So your thesis was terrazzo. I mean, no, it was terracotta.
Terracotta.
Okay.
Architectural terracotta.
Okay. Interesting. So I've got something to tell you during the break that about the historic preservation person that I knew and that has since passed away, but I got to share some understanding with him. It's very interesting. What is your favorite aspect of your work? And then we'll take a break and come back and talk about this place.
My favorite aspect of my work, I think after 20 years, I got into this because of the buildings.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the buildings to me are a layer of history. They're a part of our story, all of our stories. And I love how they can really be a true means to bring people together, because it's a building. It doesn't have feelings, but there's so much emotion in them. And so that's what I love about it, and that's what I've enjoyed working with the city and the county, working with the people who live here and finding out all those stories, finding out when we opened this place that people used to come here and the kids would bring their little cars and run them up and down. Mm-hmm. That, Evelyn Terry told me, she came in on the other side in her little bobby socks, and, everybody was dressed to the nines, and just hearing that, and it brings this place alive. But we can both share that. We can all share that story. And then they change. So let's talk about the Walltown area now that has a larger Latino population, mm-hmm. Latin or Hispanic, and they're going into old churches. Mm-hmm. Well, churches that used to have white people church, and then they had African American church, and now they've got the Latin church. Isn't that awesome? Mm-hmm. In that one place. And it's a place we can celebrate. I love that. That's what I love about my job. And because it's a way to express and share things with lots of different people.
Do you think, before we go to break, do you think, from picking up to you and I mean, like I said, we're friends, I love your passion. I almost feel like the buildings are the cover of the book, and then the stories are inside. Yeah. And I mean, it's just, and we're gonna talk about this, maybe we might even, let's walk around a little bit and have Stabler shoot us as we do that, but we're gonna take a quick break and come back with more about Union Station and all of the wonderful things the city has done here and what plans are for the future, et cetera, with Michelle McCullough. We'll be right back. So welcome back to Camel Seat Chat. We're here with Michelle McCullough, and Michelle is going to show us around Union Station. So behind us, so what do we got? So tell us this.
So Union Station was built in 1926. It was designed by Philheimer and Wagner. They were an architecture firm out of New York City. They were the architects to design railroad stations at that time. And again, remember at that time, in the 20s, that's when Winston-Salem was the largest city in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. And again, that was tobacco, textiles, furniture, blankets. We had Chatham.
Blueberries too or something?
Before that, one of our biggest agricultural crops before tobacco was dried blackberries.
Blackberries, crazy.
Isn't that crazy?
Okay, yeah.
So what we have here today is Union Station that's been rehabilitated by the city of Winston-Salem.
All right, so this was a garage for a period of time, right?
From 1975 until 2010-ish.
Okay. And so came in
14-ish.
and at that point then started to rehabilitate it.
Correct.
Obviously probably some federal funds stuff, there was all the, yeah. All right,
Lots of different funding sources.
Right, so tell us about it as a train station then.
So, and we'll give a shout out to Mr. Davis, and a lot of you will remember this as Davis Garage. Yeah. You pulled your car in through the front door.
Okay.
One
Come
of my
around, Stabler. We'll go over
favorite
this way,
pictures is a Mack truck cab right there. You know,
Okay.
I mean,
So
we've
right
seen
through
it.
here, this
Yeah.
pulled through.
Yeah, just pulled in and people
Okay.
come in, do their cars. And what the Davis family did is they actually saved this place.
So
Because
what, did they put something down over the top of this?
and I
strong?
like to say, Mr. Davis, all he did is make this place really dirty.
Okay.
It was just really dirty. And you can see there's some places where this is terrazzo.
Right.
There's some places where there's been pieces replaced.
Right,
And
yeah.
that's because there was too much damage or that. But the black and white tile is original. The marble wainscoting is original. The ironwork over the counters, all of that's original. I mean, there's a lot of original fabric left in this place. And again, we have to thank the Davises because in 1970, when the last passenger train left the station and they closed the doors, they ripped off the concourse that went over the tracks
Because we went down from 4 tracks to 1.
to 1.
Okay.
And nobody knew what was going to happen.
Right.
And so then Mr. Davis said, I can put a garage in here, and he did. And so
And I think people don't realize this, folks. We're on the main level that's equal, to Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard.
Correct.
But then there are 2 floors below us.
exactly, because this just wasn't a passenger train station.
Right.
This was also like a freight train
A
station.
hub, too, for something?
A hub,
Yeah.
yeah. So you had freight coming in on trains, but there was a whole truck.
So, I
on
mean, like the
bottom
mail
floor.
would come around, go down there, and they'd unload it there, and then they'd load it up on the train.
Exactly. Or loaded
Crazy.
to the people to get delivered. You also had what we currently would, like UPS, American Express. They were
Right.
called different things back then, but similar type companies, they would have their freight coming in here, pick it up. This was a big hub. The second floor was mostly offices for all of that, for the train and for all those companies.
And that was weird to see, too, because, I just think of there's people here, we do sales, whatever, we get them out the door. But then you've got, there's a conductor that's down there that's like over conductors, and then there's all these different things that, it's
The
a business.
purser.
Right. The
The
purser, yeah.
money, but ticketing, but then also there was fire and police here too,
Right.
because this was a hub. And
Right.
and it was sort of centrally located at the time. It was more on the east side, but it still was right by downtown, right by all the factory workers, right by, some neighborhoods. So
And I love how they did this, and of course, we started the show off with you, selling me a ticket to
Yeah.
2 for Camel City Chat. But so I didn't have, and I'm like, what is that? Is that, and does a kid sit there or what? Yeah. And you tell them, no, that's where you put your bag up. So
for the luggage. Yeah.
Earlier, I put I put Stabler's book bag there and talked to you, but there's, there's 2 sides to this station, and I always hate the fact that it was this way, but it was this way, and you preserved both sides. So
being built in the 1920s, that we were a segregated city. We were a segregated South.
Right.
We can't take that out of our history. And this building was built segregated. And I'm going to use the term separate but equal. And that was a term that was used in that period. And what it was meaning is wherever it was, we're going to build it both sides so we can have a white side and a black side. But they'll be separate, but they'll be equal. They never really were equal. It's
No,
like
they weren't, yeah.
the easiest example is a water fountain. Take a look at that little bubbler over there. It's marble with silver. And maybe we can walk
We'll
over
walk
to
through,
the other
yeah.
side and show you the African-American side.
Well, and
It didn't
even if
have
you look
such
at
a
this,
fancy-
there's
yeah.
but it's
But this was
it's
the
history,
white side.
but
yeah. But this was the white side, we did have an African-American side that they entered off of what is now Martin Luther King, but used to be Claremont, used to be Wheeler Street. And a lot of people remember that back those days too.
All right, well, let's walk over that way because I want to go through what I'd like to do is go through here because this is, what I know we have this one thing, and that one thing is that where we're at now, obviously, is a space where. Can I rent this to have events and stuff?
Well, so
Right.
that's what you're going to kind of see. So
Right.
the city is still managing this location, and there's a gentleman at the fairgrounds that, yes, you can rent this space now.
Right.
So I think they're having their first wedding here in a week or so.
Okay.
So in October. So I don't know, what is it, September?
yeah.
But and they've had a couple fundraising events and things like that. So we've torn down and we still have some things here from a past event.
Right, so then the middle floor, we believe, could go with
Winston-Salem
Winston-Salem State. And then the first floor is now a Winston-Salem County government area.
It's the city's transportation.
City's transportation, right.
department.
And then one of the big things was this room that Stabler's backed himself into. This is the potential to be a restaurant. Now.
Part of a restaurant,
Right.
yep.
The restaurant section here,
This was originally what was the restaurant.
right. So the restaurant section here would be great. I mean, you can pull in and all this kind of stuff. The problem is with all of the regulations from the health department
Right.
and stuff, because the kitchen wasn't even up here.
Right, the kitchen was
was right here, Stabler. You took, this was a dumbwaiter, and then down on the floor below us, and who wanted to carry? I'm sure that thing wasn't working all the time. So someone's carrying stuff up there. I feel like I'm at the Zeldely house now, or the tavern. But this is an area that craves to be a restaurant of some sort. But there's a lot of funds that would require this to happen,
and this is actually probably the area. Well, a lot of people were looking for like the bar or something. The main restaurant would be in the African American waiting room side.
All right, so this
is where they would, where they're talking about it. So don't call the city and ask yet.
Right. So the differences are obviously, more natural light over there, but not the same number of windows or whatever, but this is African American side, and this was how we found out what your thesis was, because you studied
this is terracotta.
Yeah.
And again, on the original drawings for the station, it did have terrazzo over here. But again, anytime, any construction project, there are usually things you have to cut, and there might have been funding, I don't know. But for some reason they put this, but this is a very good product. And I think this side has its own natural beauty. The dome is very beautiful.
It's beautiful, yeah.
But if you look at the ticket counter, the other side was, even the gold was a little glitzier. I mean, the signs were a little glitzier. But everything over here, you have the same marble wainscoting. You have the same facilities for men and women.
You don't have the same water fountain, though.
But yeah, look at the water fountain. I mean, those are the simple, when you talk about that concept of separate but equal, it's not equal. In here, they had wooden benches just like over there. We have a photograph of that in our records. So they did have photographs too. They did have wooden benches over here too. So
the positive out of this that I see is that we're able to preserve it, and that's it's so unfortunate, but we are able to preserve it. So as you said, you had people come to the opening night that their first thing that they did was what? After they came in this side?
They wanted to go over and see the other side, because you couldn't see the other side from this side.
So when we did the little talking and showing of things, there was walls in between all of these things.
Or they would have used a material like this, and that's
so that you can see both sides. Like even with the travel shop, that obviously this was an open window here that someone's put that back in, I would assume.
Right. So, we had to make some modifications. There had been stuff taken out, again, when Davis was here and things like that. But there's still, again, even there, you can see some original cabinetry is still there, and things like that. But there was something here that you couldn't see, and that's what we learned that day. I learned so much from the people who came, who lived this history.
It's the storytellers.
Yeah, and so, and everybody can be a storyteller. And I think what's so important, I know people don't like the concept of, oh, that's a bad part of history. But you've got to tell it, because for the kids today, if they don't hear that and understand that,
then history repeats itself.
History could, and we nobody wants. I mean, that's the last thing we would want. And so, and I think celebrating that here, you learn, you can kind of see it in actual space. Again, like what I was saying, you can feel it. And like you even said, the lighting's different. How does that make you feel? That's what you ask the kids when they come in here, and they're like, oh,
Yeah.
But the African Americans, the stories, when they come in, they loved coming here because it was exciting to ride a train, and that sort of thing. But a lot of times they brought their own food because they didn't know they could get food here, but the next stop they might not be able to. So telling that story, because nowadays we've gotten a lot more freedom, but there's some places in America that I'm scared to go to as a woman, So that's why I love this building so much,
Yeah, and I mean, there's so much history here, and as you say, we have to understand the history so that nothing happens in the future. But it's a beautiful building. How do I come see it if I'm, watching this? I mean, is it open ever?
Not yet. Okay. Not yet. So, and every once in a while, though, we will do tours. We did right after the opening. I did 3 a month.
Okay. And do I just go to your website? Is that the best way to learn about this?
And we usually, our marketing department, which is fantastic, we try to get the news out. So if there's ever something going on, they will try to let people know that. So, and if you have an organization, you want to have a fundraiser. I think they had a fundraiser. They had a silent auction, because I've been looking at it's a great place. We've got lots of space for that. So
are you guys doing like video archives of stuff? I mean, are you like taking those storytellers and getting them on video?
So thanks for reminding me. When we did the opening, we worked with Winston-Salem State, and Tom Flynn's the head of their archives over there. So we had a station downstairs in the bottom floor where we had people collecting stories, and I think we collected, 20 or 30 people's stories that day, and that was great. And we had been collecting them. The city has the African American Heritage Initiative Committee. I might have gotten the initiative might not be in there, but it's Councilperson Scipio's group, and they are collecting stories right now. So if you have a story you want to tell, there are outlets to do that.
I was going to say, we can get in touch with you through the historic website.
Yeah, Google me I'm in the city, I'm in the planning department, I can get you to the right person.
So how do we find the historic website? Do we just go to the City of Winston-Salem and then go
to the planning department?
Planning department.
Historic Resource Commission.
All right, cool. So Stabler, you'll put a link up for that in the show notes, and then people can get in touch with you through that thing if you have a story or want to ask questions, because I know not only one of your favorite things is not only the buildings, but also getting to interact with people like me and other people where you get to share these things and tell the stories. And
the neighborhoods. I mean, we've got so many good neighborhoods. The Boston Thurman neighborhood to the north of us, Waughtown we've talked about. There's a lot in our city. So
and it's interesting to me. It's like when they did, like my parents did a house for Habitat, and I didn't even know that there was a reservoir over there.
The pond, that had burst on the north side.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that.
Yep, and we have a marker there, so you can check that out if you go up trade and keep taking trade out of the city, and you'll run right into it.
Well, Michelle's volunteered to give me some names to call, so we'll be talking to them and getting them on Camel City Chat. I certainly appreciate you doing the show, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And we'll be back next week with more Camel City Chat. Don't forget to check out Jeff Smith and Smitty's Notes, who has a street downtown right now. Check him out, as he is a huge supporter of Camel City Chat, and we appreciate you watching, listening, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the alert button. We need all the fans we can. Thanks so much.